Welcome to The Rest is Giant Robots, a conversation through the careers of writer Simon Furman and artist Andrew Wildman. Recollections and revelations about the highs and the lows as creatives in comics, books, games, film and TV.
Hello everyone, welcome to episode 28 of The Rest is Giant Robots. I'm Simon Furman.
And I'm Andrew Wildman.
And by now you know what the hell we do, so
Yeah.
we'll just jump straight in. Well, we've just been talking to the Prime members about our TFNation experience, which was last weekend. And basically, I think I can say for both of us, it was a full-on success, wasn't it?
It was amazing. Yeah. One of the things that was really different from last year, and we'll talk about some of the things that were, different from last year and from previous years. But one of the big things for me that was different about this one was that, like, even up until now, it stayed with me. Like when you see a good movie and you kind of ruminate it in your mind, kind of afterwards, and it's just the vibe has stayed with me. TFNation is always a good vibe. But it's like once you're done, packed up, you get home, and then you're into your life, and whatever, you carry on. But this one's like, I still feel the warm fuzzy from from
Yeah,
TFNation.
I agree with you completely. It is one of those ones, that sort of lingers in terms of just what a good time we had.
Yeah,
Full on busy and, the social aspect and friendly aspect is off the scale. So, we were saying to our Prime members, if you haven't been to TF Nation, if you can get along, make a date for next year. I think it's already been announced the dates. Get
yeah.
yourself there.
That's it. They've announced the dates, have they?
Yeah, I think they did it at the end of the convention.
Oh, I obviously left too early.
Yeah, no, I'd skedaddled by then as well.
So, what might be worth doing, Simon, I'll leave this to you,
Mm,
is for our overseas listeners I mean, because as I know there are some, it might be
mm.
nice to just flesh out exactly what TF Nation is.
Sure. Yeah, well, TF Nation began life as a smaller convention here called Auto Assembly. It was,
Here being the UK.
here being the UK, sorry, yes. And it started life as Auto Assembly. There had been other small Transformers UK conventions. There was Transforce. I think there was very briefly a BotCon Europe
Hmm.
1 year, organized by Glenn Hallett. And yeah, so there was Transforce, which tended to happen in Croydon, a place in South London, and which was actually very convenient for me. But that's about that's about all I can remember and say about it. Anyway, but then Auto Assembly started up, and it was run by Simon Plum and Sven Harvey,
Hmm.
uh, and that kind of grew steadily over I don't know how many years, probably a decade or more. I think
Wow.
I think we were doing auto assemblies back in 2002,
Hmm.
possibly, and then eventually that morphed. First, Sven left, so it was just Simon running the show, and then the sort of the rest of the team, David Wallace, Tori O'Regan, and Billy Edwards, kind of took it over, rebranded it as TF Nation, and that's how it's been for the past, I want to say 6 years or something, with a gap
Hmm.
for COVID.
Hmm. I had
But
two
yeah,
gaps for COVID. One during COVID, and then after COVID, I got COVID.
oh,
So-
right, yes. So and that really has grown each year. I mean, we thought last year's the 40th anniversary of Transformers was going to be,
Hmm.
the biggest. But this year it seems has surpassed that. And, I know there are sort of mutterings that next year's may be even scaled up from this year's. So that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, and one of the really cool things about it for anybody traveling any distance, well, for everybody really, but for anyone traveling distance, one of the cool things about TFNation is it takes place, and I imagine it probably always will do, at the Hilton Metropole in Birmingham, which is near the NEC, the National Exhibition Centre. Huge venues, but it takes place inside the Metropole, which is a big hotel that has event rooms, a few event rooms, um, and great bar and sort of couple of restaurants and all that kind of thing. So it's a really nice self-contained environment. So you don't have to, go along to an event hall somewhere and then drag yourself off into town for something to eat and then drag yourself off to your hotel
Y-
or drive home or whatever. So for anyone visiting, it's really nice because it is all contained. And so
Yeah.
you can kind of, if you're coming along as a visitor, you can come and go into the convention, go and have something to eat. Go in. There's a pool there, all that kind of stuff. So it's a
Mm.
really good one.
It is, and it's near the airport, Birmingham Airport International. So, yeah, it's very accessible where it is, and yeah, we had a great time, and I think if you can get over, it really is worth the effort. So, yeah, look out for next year's, which, like I say, I think has already been announced date-wise.
Yeah. I have
So,
to say, for those of you who aren't Prime members, you're you're not being able to enjoy Simon with his backdrop that he always has on this. He's got Death's Head there, and he's got the Hulk staring into his right ear.
yeah, well, it's a panel from something we're going to talk about in a little bit, but before that, um, we just wanted to touch on a little bit more Regen One, didn't we? Because we
Mm.
got a very interesting multi-layered question in from one of our listeners.
Yeah, we did. So we're always, we're always happy to receive questions. We'll get a few come in or some comments or whatever. Um, and this one's coming from Steve Bax. Thank you, Steve. I'll read the whole thing. It's not short, but it's not too long. But there's some great questions in here. So, from Steve Bax, great that you've got to Regen. I've been inspired to dig out my Volume One trade paperback and read it by the pool on holiday. Perfect holiday reading, I'd say.
Yeah.
um, I'd forgotten how apocalyptic issues 80.5 to issue 85 are. Andrew, great work on the book, getting better with each decade. Thank you very much. Um, that's more practice, seeing all the practice I get each decade. Hopefully that gets better. Um, Simon, some story questions. So, one, what was the thinking behind having a devastated alternate Earth rather than picking up in 2012 as was? Question two, was it always your plan to revive Scorponok, Brainstorm, and other deceased headmasters using their original heads? So dip into those, and then there's a third question I'll pick up after you've.
Sure. Well, I mean, initially, I really wanted to shake things up with Regen One, so I think if we just gone back to Earth as was, is, or has was at the time, it would have been a little bit. Earth would have been the primary story there. It always seemed that way. It's difficult. It would have been difficult to focus as much, I think, on the Transformers, which I wanted to do.
Mm,
If we'd had to have a whole human cast as well, and we had Spike Witwicky, Circuit Smasher, but I really didn't want to just literally regenerate what had been. The whole point about Regeneration One was it was ending things, it was taking things to a conclusion. And any
mm,
kind of regular Earth, I think, would have left storylines dangling. Oh, well, the Transformers are still on Earth, or they've left Earth, but in what state have they left Earth in? So I really wanted to everything to be wrap upable to a point where you didn't have, oh, but what happened? You didn't explore that angle. So I think having the devastated Earth gave
mm,
me that, you know, blank slate start where we could finish the Earth story definitively before we moved off Earth.
yeah.
So yeah, it was in my mind. I mean, I knew it was kind of going to be divisive. Nobody wants to think of, the the Earth's a wreck, the Decepticons won, and all sorts of things. But I just thought it was a really kind of interesting place to start and then
Yeah.
go off world from there. But it was all about endings, Regeneration One. I wanted nothing. So somebody might say, oh, you're going to do a sequel to Regen One, because that never was in my mind.
Right. Okay. I mean, so was that similar to what's happened with the movie 28 years later, where they literally pick up to what would it be now, like now,
Mm.
if we carried on from that storyline rather than just kind of essentially jump in with a kind of a new thing. So it does follow on better, even though it's that time later. Yeah.
Yeah, and and I wanted to grab and shock without a doubt with Regen One. And somehow, if we just come back into modern day Earth, I felt it might be a bit like I was doing infiltration again or something along those lines,
Yeah.
just modernizing things for a time period. So it just felt
Mm,
all round better and more whammy to have this, oh my God, Earth's been devastated, but have crumbs of hope in there by the end of that first arc.
mm. Cool. And the second question was around, was it always your plan to revive Scorponok, Brainstorm, and other deceased headmasters using their original heads?
Yeah, it's one of those things I don't think I had in mind. Obviously, Regeneration One was picking up loose ends and plot threads from the original Marvel comic, which we'd
Yeah.
had to rush finish at the end. So a lot of stuff was just pulling that forward and finishing off. But I'm pretty sure I didn't have in mind back then to do
Mm,
a revised Headmaster's story. But again, it still felt like something that had mileage. Those original heads of the headmasters were sort of there. I thought, what, they're just on a shelf somewhere? It just kind of felt a very weird loose end. So, I mean, it had never occurred to me back then, but when I was looking around, once we knew we had 20 issues or so to fill, I did
mm,
start delving more back into the whole Marvel comic as
mm,
was, to see what other things I could find or needed a little bit of addressing. And one of those I found was those original heads of the headmasters
mm.
that had just gone into, like I say, some kind of Nebulan cold storage vault, which just felt strange because I couldn't, like, well, okay, so they've got these new conjoined minds, but what happened to the original non-conjoined? Yeah, anyway, so I just thought that was something that could be explored, and as it happened, played in very well to the Grimlock storyline that was running as well.
Yeah. Very cool. And then the third question that Steve has asked is, how big a call was it to kill Megatron in the first Regen arc? Sorry about that, if that's a spoiler for anyone that hasn't read Regen. But anyway, how big a call was it to kill Megatron in the first Regen arc? Hopefully, on a future podcast, you can delve into some of the plot decisions and how the story evolved, particularly as you were given ever more issues to fill.
Yeah, again, I mean, Megatron has to do with that wrapping things up definitively. And because we were working in this modern way of story arcs, I was
Mm,
trying to make each one have a proper finish to it that finished off one of those loose ends or strands that I was trying to wrap up. And it felt like,
mm,
because we had Galvatron as well kicking around, it 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 excuses us a little bit for killing off Megatron and being
yeah,
able to focus more on Galvatron. So yeah, I again, not these none of these decisions were made lightly, because I was so conscious of the fan base, very conscious of not making a misstep or taking a misstep that would just get a very big fan backlash. But in the end,
yeah,
because we were operating in our own little bubble, it never felt as open to outraging every fan out there, because we were just finishing off.
Mm. I really love the focus on um, Rodimus as well. For
Mm,
me and my kind of particular things that I like about the whole Transformers canon was definitely that whole Rodimus thing.
yeah, and it
Yeah,
had a sort of the whole thing was supposed to have a kind of evolutionary feel that, things were moving on, progressing. So you get, the whole G-axis kind of G2-ish thing coming
mm,
into it. You get Galvatron, you get Hot Rod growing up to become Rodimus, and then,
mm,
the final note is almost an evolutionary note to the series, that it never ends moment.
yeah, yeah, and it doesn't.
No, no, clearly not. Not if not if TFNation is anything to go by.
Yeah, incredible. Yeah, good.
So yeah, so that's our little catch up on regen, and please do keep questions coming in. We are sometimes accelerating past things that we can easily double back and dig
Yeah,
down on, which is something we're going to do a little bit of today. Because while regen was going on, other stuff was happening. It
yeah,
dominated in many ways, but you know uh, either we both or I were working on Mad Hatter, the TV series we've mentioned a few times in
mm,
during this whole period. So there was other stuff going on, and I think both of us just wanted to go, just press the rewind button back to 2011 or so, and just talk about
mm,
some of the other things.
mm, mm. Yeah. I mean, I think I've touched on most of the things going on for me in the past, but I guess the most significant thing for me was, if I remember rightly, 2011 was pretty much when properly started live action storyboarding, like on Doctor Who. I think my first Doctor Who work with Farron Blackburn was kind of around about that time. So a pivot, a hugely pivotal moment for me in terms of my career.
Mm.
So yeah, although things seem to be all falling apart around about those, late 90s, early 2000s, whatever, it was just a process of change. So for me, it was definitely stepping into, a new era for me
Yeah.
creatively.
Yeah, it sort of plays into what we've been saying all along that, you have to be able to ride out the leaner times and diversify a bit, which we've both done. We've both moved into TV animation, games, and
Mm.
uh and it just you have to survive. You're now more a storyboard artist than a comic artist, and
Yeah, I mean, I don't do any mainstream comic book art at all now. I mean, I've done something which I showed at TFNation, some of the illustrations that I did for the Skybound Kickstarter campaign.
hmm,
Um, but that was quite a rare commission, for me to get in terms of that kind of stuff. It wasn't comics work, but obviously it's comics related.
hmm,
Um, but I don't do any. I don't know that I ever would do any, mainstream commissioned comic strip work.
hmm,
It's all storyboarding. So I
yeah.
had a stint of doing a lot of animation boarding, but it's not even that now. It's all live action stuff. So
Yeah,
yeah,
but that's great. It's, it is evolutionary, our careers, and you have to be adaptable. And I guess as an artist, you can only really focus on one or maybe two things.
what you say, because artists have a
Well,
can't
no, no,
concentrate more
just
thing.
just literally the amount of time each thing sucks up.
Yeah.
I can juggle a bit more. So a bit of games work, a bit of comics work. I'm currently working on three different games. Earth War's the only one I can talk about at the moment, and
Mm.
Skull Island, Astrobots, and and a couple of other things that are coming up that I can't talk about yet. So, it is that thing I can just spin more plates.
Yes, of course. I mean, as a writer, obviously, within the time that you have in your working day, you can cover a lot more ground, whereas an artist, it's a slower process. So yeah, you can only do a certain number of pages or a certain number of panels of boarding. Yeah,
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 absolutely. So yeah, winding back to 2011, one of the things I wanted to talk about, because we haven't really talked about him much, and again, if you can see my virtual background, you will see Death's Head smacking the Hulk round the jaw, from a 2011 short story we did for the character, and it wasn't just me writing. Ferg Handley wrote the first half of the story, and I wrote the second, and Simon Williams drew it. And it appeared in a comic called Marvel Heroes, which was just a sort of almost a catch-all title that Panini were publishing at the time, but they were doing original material. So original
mm,
Spider-Man and other Marvel characters. And I forget how, I think possibly it was Brady, the editor, who sort of probably was initiated the whole Death's Head idea. But this was going to be the first new Death's Head I'd written for, oh, a decade more, because Death's
yeah,
Head 3.0 wasn't really Death's Head at all. So it was like, wow, great original character in his original Jeff design.
yeah,
And, and he's going to fight the Hulk. That's okay too. Brilliant. S- So that was fun. But it got me thinking, even then at the time, that why don't Marvel US do more with this character?
mm,
He's
mm,
sort of endured. And at TFNation, I was getting as many comments and interest in the Death's Head stuff I had with me as I was the Transformers stuff. He's still so
mm.
front and center with a lot of people who grew up reading the Marvel comic.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely had that. I mean, because I was at the table next to you, seeing people queuing up, and the similar thing happened at the London Film and Comic Con, where people are coming up wanting to talk about Death's Head, and they got like some of them have got 3D printed models of the character and
Mm.
the mask and everything. It's just incredible the interest there.
Well, I think we mentioned after LFCC, somebody bought Jeff and I incredibly sculpted original Death's Heads. His was a full figure, mine was a sort of three-quarter or two-thirds figure. And,
Yeah.
just amazing. And the sort of love and devotion that goes into that is humbling, really.
Yeah, I mean, and in some ways, unless you get into a conversation with someone, you'd never really know what particular aspect of that character it is that really resonates with them, and why they want it to come back. Whether it's something in terms of its design, or its visuals, or it's something about the nature of the character, or you know, the the scrapes he gets himself into, or whatever. But it clearly has stuck with
Mm.
people. By the way,
Yeah.
that picture behind you,
Mm.
Simon Williams doesn't get enough recognition
Uh, I agree.
for
Yeah.
his
And
for his work, because just looking at that picture there, he's got such a classic Marvel style.
mm,
Like he really nails that proper old school Marvel style.
yeah,
It's
I
good
mean
to see.
he loves and is very influenced by Sal Buscema, the artist,
Yeah.
and Sal was a real sort of old school Marvel artist, and I think Simon is channeling that vibe a lot in his work. But it's great, and he loves Death's Head. I mean, I think he loves the Hulk more, but we'll excuse
Yeah.
him that. But but he has a real passion for Death's Head. Has drawn his own, sort of self-published Death's Head comics, which are wonderful. So yeah, I
Mm,
mean, he was brilliant, and obviously the perfect choice for this strip. It was
mm,
so fabulous, and yeah, this kind of came out of nowhere almost. Although, again, when I sort of looked back at what was going on, there was also um, another one of those sort of vote for things going on, and it was a Hero Clicks figure, and there were
mm.
I think there was Sleepwalker and a few others in the mix. I can't remember what the other ones, Moon Knight, I don't know. But it was which Marvel character should get a Hero Clicks figure, these tiny little turning
Yeah.
figures that were part of a game. I'm afraid I don't understand, but I've just never looked into it
It's
really.
it's
Anyway,
for the younguns.
but it was another one where via my blog, I was just going, vote for Death's Head, vote for Death's Head. He deserves a Hero Clicks figure. And sure enough, he won the vote. And I may only have voted a couple of dozen times. But anyway, he got the Hero Clicks figure. And, I just thought, this is it. Come on, come on. Look at what you've got here. You've got this character. There's all this interest in the character. People remember and were voting for the character as they had done for what became Death's Head 3.0. And I thought,
Mm,
please, please do more. And then about that time, Kieran Gillen, the writer, UK writer, also a big fan of Death's Head,
mm,
took over on a comic called Sword, which was a sort of alien hunting government agency.
mm.
And he dropped Death's Head into that. And it's like, oh, brilliant, brilliant. And then he moved on to Iron Man and took Death's Head into that. And I'm thinking, great.
Oh,
Th-
wow.
This is what we need, a kind of consistent, sort of Death's Head re-emergence that will sort of hopefully prompt Marvel to do more with the character, maybe something on his own.
Yeah,
And I think about that time as well, he got a uh, an action figure, a small action figure from the Marvel Infinite series. And so I was thinking,
yeah.
great, this is all like a critical mass that's going to get Marvel, fully invested in Death's Head again. Didn't happen. And, he kept cropping up in strange things like Avenging Spider-Man and Dark. Oh, I can't remember what the other ones were, but it was just he kept getting guest starred, and I realised that these were people who were sort of like Kieran, were sort of fans of the character, and were on their
Yeah,
own books and thought, "I'm going to put Death's Head in this." I think he was in X-Men '92 or whatever that comic was that came out, and I just
yeah.
thought, so it's like even the creators are excited about getting Death's Head back in the books. And again, it just kind of didn't spur Marvel on to do anything with the character, which is just in the end so frustrating.
Yeah, well, there's a thing for everybody to do. Just, start some kind of campaign. That doesn't have
Mm,
to be directly targeted. It just has to be social media,
yeah.
sharing. Because we still have the Draw Death's Head Day. Was that the thing that Elise started, didn't she?
Yes, yes. Elise is a regular at TFNation.
Yeah,
She's
Elise
from the
Merman. Yeah.
Netherlands. And she sort of started, it happens to be on my birthday. So I guess that was the thinking behind it, that
Yeah.
people just submit their good, bad, and wonderful sort of versions of Death's Head. But again, it gets a critical mass of people who love the character, all motivated to draw him again.
We need to see if we can light a firework under that for next year. Let's get some serious people doing some
Yeah.
serious stuff and get it as a like a proper hashtag that's going to really get some traction.
Yeah, maybe we should use our own influence and say, look,
Yeah,
all our artist friends draw Death's Head for 1 year, one draw Death's Head day. And,
yeah.
let's see if we can just go to Marvel. Look, there he is still. And, the funny thing about Death's Head, you were saying, oh, people still really into the character. But it's a weird thing with the character because the character does nothing that a character's supposed to normally do. Normally, the characters have to go through story arcs, they grow, they change. But Death's Head doesn't. That's the whole point of the character. He's exactly the same. Other things happen around him, but he's
Mm.
utterly the same, exiting the story each time as he is entering the story.
How bizarre, yeah. Has he got a
Yeah.
bit of a Boba Fett vibe about him as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, there is that, I guess. I think, possibly thanks to the TV series, Boba Fett has much more depth to the character, but Death's
Yeah,
Head
sure.
almost deliberately doesn't have depth. And I always likened him to sort of Doctor Who in terms, and it's funny that he's guest star with Doctor Who. The
Yeah.
the nugget of Doctor Who to me was that the Doctor drops into a storyline already happening, helps and
Mm.
sorts things out, and then exits. And that's always how I saw Death's Head. Things sort of happen to him, that spur him to do things. But then at the
Yeah.
end, story's end, he just moves on each time.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
but
cool.
yeah,
Well, let's do that. Let's start a proper
yeah,
campaign. I mean, surely you're in touch with people at Marvel, aren't you? Have you actually given them a
you know,
pitch they can't refuse?
I'm not. I mean, I'll get to this when we get to it. But at one point, Nick Roach and I put together a Death's Head pitch to Marvel.
Right.
We just thought, come on, let's do something tangible that we can give to Marvel. And I thought, well, at least I can get it in front of somebody there, or he could,
Mm,
um, because I think he was doing some Marvel stuff at the time. Anyway, we put together a pitch for a sort of mini series called Destroy All Robots, and
mm,
Nick, and this is something I can offer up to our Patreon subscribers. I have the little 6-page prelude story. I'll check with Nick, it's okay to put it out there, that Nick
mm.
drew to introduce this series. And yeah,
Okay.
so we tried very hard. And then again, for a future time, I took that destroy all robots idea and turned it into a one-page story that we put in Marvel Comics 1001 that they did for the
Mm.
60th anniversary. So it exists. It's a thing. And will it ever be a series? Only Marvel know. Only
It's kind of
hashtag
timeless,
Marvel
so
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a hashtag?
Yes, I
Is
think
it?
does it work if you say hashtag on a podcast? Probably not,
Oh, I
but
don't think people
yes.
know what it is, don't they? It
Anyway,
won't have any
yes.
effect if you just say it. No.
But but for next March we'll try a proper, prose push to get as many Death's Head drawings and hashtag Marvel into them.
Could we, I mean, this is me, this is just me being me. You say you don't have to agree to this at all. But could we do some kind of charity aspect on that, like auction all the artwork? So
Hey, if people are willing, absolutely. I mean, we'll only
theme it
need
and then auction it to raise money for something that in some obscure way feels relevant but is a good cause.
sounds like a deal to me. And we're only going to be asking artists for effectively sketches, so sort of nothing
Yeah.
too involved, hopefully time wise. But yeah, if the artists themselves who submit these pieces are willing, then absolutely. I mean, I'm absolutely sure we can rely on Jeff Senior to do a new Death's Head piece for us. So
Yeah, I think thinking about the incredible pickup I had when I first did Draw the World Together all those years ago, and some of the artists who sent stuff in, which
mm,
was just like, wow,
yeah.
clear that
Uh,
word had got from one artist to another. It wasn't just me directly asking. So I get
well,
stuff turning up thinking, God, I didn't think this person would actually send something in,
Well,
and they did. So
maybe we can prevail on someone like Richard Starkings, who's got a deep
yes,
Rolodex of creators, just to see whether we can get some Death's Head sketches from some American artists.
yeah,
The weird
definitely.
thing is the Death's Head toy that came out recently featured the trading card art that from the 90s, and that was Art Adams did Death's Head on
Oh
that. So
wow,
I know, and obviously Walt Simonson did Death's Head a few
yeah.
times. So maybe we can prevail upon the creators we know, especially the ones who've done a little bit of Death's Head, to jump in there.
Yeah, there you go. Richard Starkings, your name has been mentioned. Your call to action. And
Yeah,
if you're not
I,
listening, why not?
I got a message from Richard telling me we'd made some mistakes about the proposed Zoids monthly when we were talking to Ian about
Oh,
things. So
okay.
on an upcoming podcast, we will put the record straight, Rich.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
So
We are
yes,
listening, Rich. So yes.
yeah. And
Um,
obviously we're looking to get more guests on the show, so we can when if we buttonhole a few artists on the show, we can probably get them to sign up for next Death's Head Day.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, fantastic. Oh, interestingly, that you had a lot of people coming up talking to you about Death's Head at TF Nation. In my own small way, I had a kind of a similar kind of thing where people over the last few years who had bought Horizon, and then people last year who'd bought the complete copy of Oxygen, they came back to me and they were like, I picked it up because I quite liked the look of it and what you said, but yeah, and then they were just like, oh, it was just not what I expected at all. It was just,
Mm.
it's always
It
nice to
didn't.
get that kind of feedback around your own thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I saw a few people, or at least certainly I saw one person come up and take the whole clump of books, didn't they?
Yeah,
Didn't
it
someone?
was. Yeah, there was a lot going on.
Mm,
I was
yeah.
surprised. I ran out of copies of some of the things that I'd got there
Mm,
because you can only take a certain amount, can't you?
I know.
Not
Well,
because they say that, but just because you got to lug it around. So you
mm,
kind of guess how much you're likely to sell, and then just like go slightly over that. Ran out. The
yeah.
Transformers
Well,
sketchbooks that I've got ran out. I'd taken
yeah.
2 boxes of those, and they all went.
I mean, I genuinely came back a lot lighter from this TF Nation than I went, which isn't always the way. I
No.
might sell some bits and pieces, but this year was definitely like almost a suitcase load lighter coming home, which was great.
Yeah, it's definitely a bad convention if you come away with more stuff than you went with.
Yeah. So yeah, back the other a few of the other things that were going on while Regeneration One was running were I actually jumped in and did some editing again during that time, which I'd completely forgotten about.
Hmm.
But I was contacted by David Barraclough, who used to work with me at Titan. He'd moved to Music Press, which a company obviously that just did books on music, but they
Hmm.
started doing some graphic novels, and
Okay.
he wanted an editor to oversee the line because he just didn't have the time. So, I the first one I took on was a graphic novel of the Ramones. It was the whole sort of the build up and the story of the Ramones in graphic novel form.
Oh wow.
And it was written by a guy called Jim McCarthy and drawn by Brian Williamson, who we know
Yeah.
quite well. So
Yeah.
that was fun, and I did that. I really enjoyed that. I mean, for a start, I love the Ramones, so that was really fun to do. But it was also fun just to be editing something again, and that
Hmm.
that sort of was followed by a Metallica graphic novel of all things. Yeah,
And
I
are you a
know.
Metallica fan, Simon?
Well, no, actually, at that point, I could say I wasn't, but but I did the research and looked into it to make sure I could edit the book properly. But
Yeah.
obviously, Jim McCarthy, the author, knew his stuff.
Yeah.
So, that was fun. And I was doing some stuff for Marvel Fact Files, which was a part works that Eagle Moss were putting out. And funnily
Hmm.
enough, getting back to Death's Head, I got to do some various Death's Head Marvel UK bits for that. One of
Yeah.
which was a sort of a one of those cutaway type drawings of
Oh
Death's
yeah.
Head that
Yeah.
Kev Hopgood drew. Really good,
Yeah.
sort of fabulous stuff. And then I got to annotate the cutaway of Death's Head, which was brilliant. So yeah,
Very
lots
good.
going on. I started work on uh, Dragons, a series for Titan, which was basically how to train your dragon, but based more on the animated show Riders of Berk, I think it was called.
Okay.
And so, yeah, there was just a lot going on, and we'll save for another time. I'd started my discussions with Jeff for To the Death. That was rolling along in the background. So,
Ah, yes.
yeah, we
Yeah,
can.
these things that people know as recent content, that we've both done, their threads go back quite a long
Oh,
way, don't
God,
they?
yes, yeah. Just in terms of the time it takes to get these things turned around.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And just to kind of ruminate those ideas, for long enough until you feel kind of ready to really dive in and start making it real. Yeah,
Sure. I mean,
yeah.
possibly, unless you've got anything else to add from that time, we should just talk a little bit more about TF Nation because it sort of bleeds into our next podcast.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, so we had the distinct pleasure of actually whose idea was it, yours or was it David's?
I think it was possibly David's or just came out of one of our discussions. The
Right.
idea of being on stage and doing a quote unquote live version of The Rest is Giant Robots.
Yeah, so David Wallace, one of the organisers there, yeah, thought that would work, and it's all good content for them, and it's relevant, you know. So yeah, we fully embraced that. We'd always thought that would be a fun thing to do a live recording of. It's kind of like it's recorded live. It's not live. It didn't go
Hmm.
out live, but it was
No.
recorded live. Yeah, in one of the event halls at TFNation. And
And it was
it was great, and they set it up really well for us in terms of properly filmed and with independent feeds from the microphone, so that the sound quality is good. Because we've done things before where, you know, you try to get somebody to record a panel you're doing or whatever, and the ambient noise in the room just makes it all just quite horrible.
yeah.
But
I mean, it still, hopefully it still feels has a live element to it because what was nice for
yeah,
us was we got the occasional round of applause or laughter from the audience, which really
mm,
helps because otherwise you do these things in a vacuum and you hope you're being interesting or amusing or something.
yeah,
But having the audience there was that instant feedback, which is lovely and
it was, yeah.
hopefully that'll come across in the version we put out in a couple of weeks' time.
Yes, so episode 29 will be the Restless Giant Robots from TFNation. Fantastic. And we had some questions from the audience as well, so
Mm.
that's always good. Some interesting questions.
So if you were there at TF Nation and part of that audience, please do jump on board in a couple of well, jump on board anyway, but come and hear yourself, the
Yeah,
audience
yeah,
participating.
yeah. And so in terms of questions, so we're always we're always looking for people to send in questions. So two ways you can do that. You can go to wildfur.net and put a comment, whatever in there, or just email us at the restlessgiantrobots@gmail.com.
Yeah, or even track us down on social media. Drop your questions there and we'll just amalgamate for another Q&A episode.
Yeah, yeah, perfect. Good.
Certainly it felt because I did 3 panels over the weekend and we never quite had enough time for audience questions. We did get audience questions, but you got the feeling there was a lot more sort of hands that were raised and never were got to.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think sort of the panels were built with a little bit of leeway
Mm.
just to take. But I think especially with Resty's Giant Robots live, we didn't get nearly enough time. I don't think, or allow nearly enough time. That's probably on us for
Yeah, well,
audience questions.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So we can always take more of those.
Yeah,
The rest is giant live robots.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah,
I
good. What's the rest of the day look like anyway? Just briefly, what are you doing creatively? You don't have to get personal about it, but
No, no. Well, I mean, as I mentioned, I'm working on various games, all of which are Transformers, but only Earth Wars I can talk about. But even Earth Wars, we're coming up to this is the ninth year of Earth Wars, which is pretty amazing for a little sort of mobile game that
mm,
just seems to have longevity, real, sort of staying power and a loyal sort of, I want to call it, you can't call it readership, gameship, sort of the people who play the game, and
playership.
yes, and, I, that's great. And next year we'll reach 10 years, all being well. So that's an amazing thing still to be
Mm,
working on. And I'd love
mm,
to find a way to get some of that story content, 9 years worth of it,
yeah,
into some kind of readable, publishable form. So I will talk to the team at Earth Wars and see if that's something that can be de-archived and made to happen. So there's that.
yeah.
I'm also you know, all I can say at the moment is September 17th.
Oh,
So just under, just over a month's time. Who knew is Transformers Day? I didn't know there was a Transformers Day, but apparently
really?
September the 17th is Transformers Day.
What's the
So
relevance of that date? Does
I
it?
think it's either when the first episode of the cartoon was broadcast
Okay,
or the first Marvel comic. One of those two.
I'm going to make a
Um,
note of this.
yes. So September 17th. And I hope to be able to announce more about that, but keep an eye on that date, especially as regards the Battersea Power Station Transformers store. You know,
Oh, okay.
the first dedicated Transformers store ever in Battersea Power Station here in London,
Mm.
and there is stuff happening around September 17th that I will be able to talk about at some point, but just can't yet. So very exciting stuff.
Wow, that's good. That sounds awesome. And the Battersea Power Station Transformers store, they had a presence at TFNation.
They did, yes. Yeah, the lovely Warren who runs the store. I think they're opening up a central London Hasbro all-encompassing store as well. They're sort of laying the groundwork for that. So, what again, what I've realized is that this fan base is so sort of consistent. I had a feeling with Battersea Power Station store it might have a spell like a pop-up and do well,
Yeah.
but no, it seems, everything is expanding, not the opposite.
Mm.
Yeah, amazing stuff. But yes, they are really nice people, and it's they've got an array of stuff. If you haven't been to the Battersea Power Station Transformers store, do go. It is quite stunning, the array of stuff in there. I didn't know how much there was this amount of Transformers merch. I mean, they do their own merchandise as well, but
Okay.
merchandise, figures, games, I don't know, there's just everything. It's funny, what there's least of is the actual toys themselves in a strange way. There's
Yeah.
so much merchandise, spin-off merchandise, but anyway, get
Yeah.
yourself there if you can.
Yeah. And Battersea Power Station itself is an absolute marvel of a
Yeah.
piece of architecture to see. Yeah,
Yes.
fantastic. Good. I shall be
And
storyboarding all day.
yes, yeah. Well, can you yet announce what you're
No.
storyboarding? Ah,
No,
well,
I can't.
there you go. That's something for a future podcast as well, when Andrew can
Yeah.
talk about the very exciting thing he's working on.
Yeah. No, we still haven't, still can't do that. I check every now and then to see if it's been mentioned anywhere in the press, but no. I saw the
Okay.
director yesterday and it's like, no.
Okay, fine. Well, when you can, you'll hear it first or ish here.
Yeah, it might even be first. Yeah. Yeah, so that's good. All right. Well, have a good day doing all that, Simon.
Yep, have fun, and uh, we will see ourselves next fortnight because we don't have to do anything. We've done it.
Well,
We
I've
have.
still got to edit it together.
Uh, oh yeah, that small thing.
Yeah,
But
still that
yes,
to do. But I mean, David Wallace at TFNation supplied the files to me, so I've got the video and then the separate audio channel files. So it should be fairly straightforward to put together. So
and maybe episode 30 will pick up where we left off on our last movie chat because that was still sort of in mid-flow as we finished that one.
yeah, there's always more movies to talk about. Brilliant. All right. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching. And if you're listening and not watching, do subscribe so you can watch as well.
Okay, thanks everyone, and see you next time.
Thank you for listening to The Rest is Giant Robots. If you enjoyed what you heard, please consider subscribing for more and maybe share with like minded friends. This has been a Wildfur production.